All right. That's this one here. How about now? Can you guys hear? Oh, wait, let me switch. Properties. Yeti. Boom. Can you guys hear me now? Sorry about that, guys. We were having a little bit of a derp moment with technology. But this is the first remote stream we're doing. Can you hear us now? Felipe, say something.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Could you guys hear him?
Oh, look at this. Look at this.
Hey, Alpha Level 21. Oh, they can hear now. Thank you. Mary Walker, what's good?
All right. Your Brad Pitt moment.
What about Brad Pitt?
Okay, wait. Now I have to mute this one so that I can see the chat but not hear us.
I love how it has our names in those little like corners here. Like, how cool is it's got a like Josh, little Felipe. Just in case in the middle of the stream you forget his name. Boom, Felipe.
Guys hear me now? Wait, sorry.
Wouldn't it be funny if we weren't remote, we were actually right next to each other, but the wall is just divided there?
We painted the whole.
Yeah, we paint the wall. So anytime I want, I could just like walk over and go into your frame.
Hey, Josh, do you want a drink?
And I grab it. I'm like, thanks, Felipe.
It changes the way that it, like, the bottle and everything.
We have fun. We'll have to do a little fun addition to that. What's that, the random person that just says J-Hope? We're just yelling out BTS members right now.
It's Joe. Oh, I'm kind of quiet. Hold on, let me turn up the volume.
Oh, you know what, Felipe? I think the only thing they're hearing is my microphone, which you play through my speakers. So it's like what the microphone picks up from the speakers.
So you're saying I shouldn't even be here?
I'm saying that if I make a second audio output that has your voice coming from the desktop, I think that'll work. Desktop audio.
Do I have to do this?
I don't think so.
Because I don't know really what you're talking about, but...
Alright, so what about now, guys? Is it good now?
Is it better now?
I added a second audio input that has Felipe's voice only.
What if you add a second audio input that only has my voice?
That's brilliant!
I come up with all the good ideas.
He does. That's accurate. Let the record show.
I really like the name Colby Cheeser. That's amazing.
Isn't it?
I love it.
He's from Colorado, that guy.
Colorado has the best Colby cheese, they say.
Colby cheese. But, oh, and he's also a K-pop reactor.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. Got the whole
Everyone's saying it's much better. My idea worked after all.
So we figured it out. Thanks, Felipe.
You're welcome. Good thing you have me on here, right?
What now?
Good thing you have me on here.
Oh, good, yeah. All right. Is there any reverb, guys? Like, is there double audio? Like, you hear a little echo? Like, it's like, I say one thing, and it's like, one thing. Or is it just loud and clear across the bar, and we're good?
What if I was just trolling you, and I just kept saying, like, echoing you?
I mean, I would take it back.
I would take it back.
I will send it back.
I will send it back.
All right, here we go.
All right, here we go. Go.
No! I'm not letting this happen.
You need to turn the reverb down.
Apparently. All right, so... Oh, no, so we're good. We're good. Everything's good now.
My chat's really slow. Or did everyone just start saying no to you too?
I think they're all saying no, there's no reverb.
Oh, okay.
Gotta get my grandma to subscribe. Grandma! Subscribe to JoshBinder's new channel, GEN180!
She'd be like, what's the YouTube?
What's the
Nah,
YouTube?
I don't know your grandma Colby Cheeser. That would be my grandma.
So does your grandma YouTube, Felipe?
No, she doesn't do anything electronic.
Oh.
Literally, like, when we call her, we have to, like, get an aunt or an uncle to pick up the phone for her.
Oh, wow.
It's great.
Sounds great. Well, I'm sure we'll be that way someday in some way.
They'll be like, Grandpa, turn on your hologram. Wait, why are they old? Never mind, sorry.
It's the opposite is what we were trying to say, is that we're the old ones. But yeah, all right. So it is slow. There's a couple seconds of delay.
Oh, okay. Well,
what delay?
Wait, it sounds like you're getting them at the same time as I am, which is, I just wanted to make sure we were good on that.
Couple seconds of delay with the audio, or what do you think they mean by that?
The chat, I think it's the chat.
It's funny, Grandma watches Reggie. But yeah, so welcome guys to GEN180. What is it, week 5? Cinco, right, Felipe?
You got it.
Yes.
You're now professional Spanish.
Wouldn't it be funny if, like, the entire time I'm talking, you just talk right over me in Spanish? Like
In Spanish, I just do the self-translation.
Yeah, while I'm talking.
Mientras que hablas.
Oh man, just the chat. Okay, good. All right. So right now we're starting off the new chapter here, chapter 4. And that's kind of the whole point of GEN180. We're just walking through the book of John right now and discussing it and talking about it. And I want to invite my friend here, my brother-in-law, Felipe. What's up, Felipe?
Hey.
You're calling me from your house now, your new house you just moved into.
Yeah, yeah.
It's snowing there, right?
It is. There's about like a quarter of an inch on the ground already.
Quarter inch? Dang. I'm jelly. Show me. I want to see.
All right. Don't judge my house. Oop.
Judge!
Wait, I'm going the wrong way.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
That's so nice.
Nice. Wait, backwards. Good. All right.
Yeah, it's snowing here too.
Yeah, show me yours. Ooh.
I don't know if you can see.
Are you still in the same apartment that I helped you move into?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, I am.
All right.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I kind of moved down the hall. It's the same apartment complex.
Oh.
I know, it's
I was
right.
going to say, that doesn't look like the view that you had.
It's not. It's a different view.
So to answer your question, the answer is no.
No, to answer your question. But yeah, so what have we read so far in the book of John? We read chapter 1, which is just John the Apostle giving this introduction on who Jesus is. And then we get introduced to John the Baptist, which is a completely different John, which confuses a lot of people. But John the Apostle wrote the book. John the Baptist is this dude that just baptizes people and lets everyone know about the coming of the Messiah. Is that a good way to describe it, Felipe? I'm trying my best.
No, good.
Okay. Basically letting everyone know he's coming. You know, the Messiah's coming, letting everyone know, preparing the way. And then what happened? He started...
Jesus.
What happened next?
Jesus cleansed the temple complex.
He did, because that was the Passover festival, which is a really important, significant holiday for the Jews. So all the Jews come around to the temple, and there's people there just trying to sell stuff. They're trying to use it as like a business opportunity. So he got really peeved, and he like just starts driving the people out. Pharisees roll up, and they're like, "Who do you think you are? You got to give us a sign, or just give us some sort of, I don't know, proof that you can even do something like this." And he said, "Oh, you want proof? I'll give you proof. Tear this temple down, and in 3 days, I'll raise it back up." Of course, they're all thinking...
Can you do that again?
I imagine him being sassy. I don't know why.
Just like
tear this temple down, and I'll raise it in 3 days. And of course, they're thinking physically. They're thinking tangible. They're thinking the temple around them, and they're like, this took, what, 60, 70 years to build. You guys can't tear it down and raise it up again in 3 days. Now, he's talking about his own physical body, which is, I kind of think, like the biggest theme throughout the entire book of John is that Jesus keeps talking about spiritual things in a spiritual way. Everyone else is kind of stuck in this, the physical, the traditions, the do this and don't do that, the law, if you will. But he's always talking about the spiritual thing. And so that's kind of what happened there. And no, you are not late, Nikki. You right on time. We're just doing a quick
Recap.
Recap. Thank you, Felipe. Recap. See, that's why I brought him here. See, I would have been stuck on that word for about half an hour.
One word every 3 minutes.
Every 3 minutes. Or I will send it back. All right. So anyway, what happened right after the temple cleansing? So then the dude Nicodemus came to him, which is this, he's like a ruler of the Pharisees. He's like a high up dude in the whole religious system. And he came by at night because he didn't want people seeing him. He goes by privately to Jesus' place, and he's like, yo, we know that you must be a prophet sent from God. Because no one can do these things that you're doing, these miracles, unless they came from God. And he's basically asking Jesus what the answer is to how to get to heaven, like how to have eternal life, how to join the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. And Jesus starts responding in a spiritual way, in a completely different, I guess, type of conversation that he's actually than he's used to. He's saying to be born again, or to join the kingdom of heaven, you must be born again. And that really confuses Nicodemus. No clue why you can be born, how to be born again. So we talked. That was our main discussion last week in week 4. You weren't here for that, Felipe.
I wasn't.
But we basically kind of together started delving into how there's the spiritual conversation and then there's like the physical conversation, talking about the world around us. And that Nicodemus is asking a spiritual question, so Jesus gives a spiritual answer. And he's trying to help him understand the spiritual world. And that's been really confusing. I don't even think Nicodemus like really understood it by the time they just move on. Honestly, though, like I feel like a lot of these things that Jesus says is more for us to read later.
Well, and it says like the disciples like understood a lot later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they'll say the disciples remembered after the crucifixion, plot twist, that actually was what he was talking about. Well, spoiler alert.
Oh man, you ruined the end of the book.
Well, that's not just the end. There's a better part after that.
That's true.
So we're picking it up in chapter 4, which is after the whole Nicodemus part. So right now, we could just pick it up. So let's read the first chunk here. Let me pull it up here on the boom. So now we got it. So I'm reading this on Bible Gateway. It's probably the most commonly used online source to read the Bible is Bible Gateway. It's really easy. You can use a drop-down menu to use like any translation you want. How would you describe different translations, Felipe?
Well, probably since I know that like when you translate a language, and anybody that knows 2 languages can probably relate, there's translations that use like a word for word. So like they'll take a sentence and translate it like word for word. So it's very, very literal. But the problem with that is that a lot of the Bible is written in, kind of like a common folk language. So what some other versions do is they take it idea by idea. And that's when you got to start like being careful because some people might, then you get their biases on it, I guess. And not like a K-pop bias, which I know is not the actual bias. Aha.
I got you. Well, there's some similarities there.
True. But still, yeah. That's I think that's what I would say. I mean, they're all pretty good.
They're all pretty good. I've never really read a bad translation. There's one that you can read in this like old Hawaiian like folklore type of way of talking.
Are you serious?
We gotta read that song. It's hilarious. Like you read like in the beginning God made the heavens and the earth. Like that's a normal translation. Like it says from the get-go, the big man made it go boom. Like that's the translation. It's amazing. They did the whole Bible.
That's amazing.
It's incredible. We gotta. It's called like parrot something.
What I want to see is someone like preach a sermon off of that version.
And the big man made it go boom.
What does he mean by boom?
We'll bring that up sometime for sure.
But Bible Gateway is awesome because it's got like over like 1,000 different versions, I think.
It does. Different
languages.
The big man made it go boom. Thank you, Joy. But that's a really good point, Chromium. I don't know your actual name, but I'm going to start to call you Chromium. The story is still continuing to this day. That's the whole point. All right. So let's get into, what do you call it? Reading the first...
Sorry.
It is funny though.
What do you call that thing where you pick up words and you speak them? Oh, reading. Okay.
Someone's read that version before. I'm so happy. Okay. So let's bring this up. So what we're going to do first, chapter 4, verses 1 through 26.
Do it.
All right, cool. So we're going to read 1 through 26. I'm going to do that right now. So let's start this out. Okay. Jesus and the Samaritan woman. Jesus knew the Pharisees had heard that he was baptizing and making more disciples than John the Baptist. Though Jesus himself didn't baptize them, his disciples did. So he left Judea and returned to Galilee. All right, so he's going a little bit of a journey here. He had to go through Samaria on the way. Eventually, he came to the Samaritan village of Sychar. Is it, Felipe?
I was pronouncing Sychar, but Sychar sounds better.
It sounds cool, right? Sychar?
I'd go with Sychar.
Sychar. Near the field that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there. And Jesus, tired from the long walk, sat warily beside the well about noontime. So in the middle of the day. Soon a Samaritan woman came to draw water. And Jesus said to her, "Please give me a drink." Here we are. Perfect. I had to scroll down a little bit. He was alone at the time because his disciples had gone into the village to buy some food. The woman was surprised, for Jews refused to have anything to do with Samaritans. She said to Jesus, "You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. Why are you asking me for a drink?" Jesus replied, "If you only knew the gift God has for you, and who you are speaking to, you would ask me, and I would give you living water. But sir, you don't have a rope or a bucket." Burn. Sorry. She said, and this well is very deep. Where would you get this living water? And besides, do you think you're greater than our ancestor Jacob, who gave us this well? How can you offer better water than he and his sons and his animals enjoyed? Jesus replied, "Anyone who drinks this water will become thirsty again. But those who drink the water I give them will never be thirsty again. It becomes a fresh, bubbling spring within them, giving them eternal life." I want to be so dramatic when I read it. All right. "Please, sir," the woman said, "give me this water and I'll never be thirsty again. I won't have to come here to get water." "Go and get your husband," Jesus told her. "I don't have a husband," the woman replied. Jesus said, "You are right. You don't have a husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and you aren't even married to the man you're living with now. You certainly spoke the truth." "Sir," the woman said, "you must be a prophet. So tell me, why is it that you Jews insist that Jerusalem is the only place of worship, while we Samaritans claim it is here at Mount Gerizim? Gerizim? Like Shazam? I don't know. Where our ancestors worshipped." Jesus replied, "Believe me, dear woman, the time is coming when it will no longer matter where you worship the Father, on this mountain or in Jerusalem. You Samaritans know very little about the one you worship, while we Jews know all about him, for salvation comes through the Jews. But the time is coming, indeed it's now here, when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. The Father is looking for those who will worship him that way. For God is spirit, so those who worship him must worship in spirit and in truth." The woman said, "I know the Messiah is coming, the one who is called Christ. When he comes, he will explain everything to us." Then Jesus told her, "I am the Messiah." So that's ending verse 26. It goes on, but we'll just pause there for a moment.
That's a good stopping point.
It is. It's really neat. I want to highlight this. Let's highlight yellow. There we go. I am the Messiah.
Yeah.
So before we go on, I wanted to open it up. Did anyone have any questions about this passage? Anything that stuck out to you guys? Anything that was interesting? Anything at all? And we can kind of discuss it, or just popcorn conversation. You ever have popcorn conversation, Felipe?
I had popcorn reading at school.
What's that?
It's like you start reading, and then whenever you're done, you just stop and someone picks up, or you call on someone.
Oh.
We should do that, but it'd be weird because it's just the two of us. So I'd be like, then the woman said, "Josh."
Then I'll continue.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess that's kind of popcorn reading. I guess
Yeah.
popcorn responding is just anyone that has anything that stuck out to them about this story. Feel free to just mention it.
Yeah.
Anything stick out to you, Felipe?
It was such a cool story. I think that it's funny that Jesus says, tells her, go get your husband. And then she says, I don't have a husband. He says, you're right. You don't have a husband. You've been married 5 times. That's pretty intense to like have someone just, like you think they don't know you at all, just a man you just met at the well, and all of a sudden they tells you you're living that with your guy you're even supposed to be living with, and you've been married 5 times. Pretty intense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that like digging into the context of what's going on in this passage, that kind of makes sense a little more as to why he would bring that up.
Yeah.
So,
well, what is like? Why don't we go through like who's talking and what's going on? Because what's a Samaritan, or why is it cool that Jesus is there? Why is this important?
So right now, okay, so it starts out saying Jesus isn't stupid. He knows. He's omniscient. He knows the Pharisees are figuring out about his movement. He knows that people are starting to discover him. They're learning about him. He's gaining a following. He's gaining recognition. And the Pharisees are going to start trying to track this guy down. So Jesus starts leaving. He basically starts hopping around. So he left Judea and returned to Galilee. And if you look at a map from Judea to Galilee, you have to go through Samaria. It's just the obvious route in the middle. And if you don't go through Samaria, it takes you on this crazy long route around where you end up spending like 3 times the amount of time. And that's what Jews used to do. Hey, Georgie. That's what Jews used to do because they don't like going through Samaria. They don't like Samaritans. They think they're beneath them culturally. They think that they're better than Samaritans. So what they would do is they'd literally spend 3 times the amount of time and they'd go around Samaria just to avoid Samaritans, as if they're lepers and they would get leprosy from them, which wasn't true. They were just that prideful and they thought themselves better than Samaritans. And I don't really know why. I don't know if you do, Felipe, but like I don't know how it became that way, but it probably had something to do with religion at the time.
Yeah, I mean, she kind of talks a little bit about it, how they thought that the Jews thought that Jerusalem was a true center of worship, and they thought that it was at this place where I think this was like a pretty important place back when like Israel was founded, like when Jacob was dividing the land to his 12 children and everything. Yeah. But beyond that, I'm not sure. I just know that they didn't like him a lot.
Exactly. So there's already beef there. There's like some racial things going on there. I wouldn't even call it racial. I would say it's more of just, what would you say, class or standing or where you're born from or.
Yeah. Because I think they were pretty related to each other.
They probably didn't look too different. It was just the way that they were dressed. They could tell one was Samaritan, one was Jewish. So he goes through Samaria because Jesus isn't racist in any way. He couldn't care less about class. Let's see what Maddie say here. Some good comments I'm probably missing here. Let me scroll back up. I love how once again something Jesus says goes right up over someone's head. Like when he starts talking about living water and she thinks he was talking about getting water from the well. That's a really good point. Very good point.
That's like you said, that's the main theme going on so far. Jesus. Yeah. Someone asks a question, Jesus takes it like 3 levels beyond the physical, and they're still stuck in the physical.
Exactly, because he's trying to explain something spiritual to them, so he has to use spiritual terms. But how do you use spiritual terms to someone who's never heard anything spiritual? It's like trying to explain color to a colorblind person.
Yeah. Well, and this time it's even like more intense because she wasn't really even asking. So like Nicodemus, he came up to Jesus and asked about these things. Whereas this woman just came up and was just getting some water. She probably wasn't even thinking about this spiritual. She's just thinking how she wants to probably get out of there before everyone else comes and draws water and asks her about why she's living with some random guy.
Exactly. So why was it? Because I did a little bit of digging into the culture at the time, and apparently getting water was a really social event. Like people would do that in groups. They'd go together. They would be all going to get water at the same time. It'd be a social thing. So she's going alone. She's going at noon, which is the hottest time of the day. This well is very detached from the city. It's pretty far out from the city, to the point that I would be pretty freaking uncomfortable. It'd probably be 100 degrees outside, super sunny, and she's going out alone. Why is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think she's trying to avoid some people and avoid some awkward conversations.
Because at the time, she's living in a way that brought her shame, I'm guessing, from her lifestyle.
I mean, I know that divorce was legal back then, but I don't think it was the norm in that area, especially 5 divorces. I mean, I imagine like if you've been divorced 5 times even today, that's not something you really want to be talking about.
Right.
And what else is there to talk about besides your life and your family back then?
Exactly. Yeah, good point. So she's avoiding people. She's going to this well alone. She runs into the Messiah. It's her lucky day. She's trying to avoid people, runs into the Messiah. But yeah, it's one of the best things that could have happened. So Jesus' disciples go into the temple to go buy food because it's a really long journey that they're going on foot. So he's just chilling at the well, and this woman comes up, and he used that as a conversation opportunity. So what did Maddie say next here? I like verse 20.
I like what she said, yeah. Verse 24.
Sorry. Let me pull up verse 24 again. I forgot which one that was.
That one is where, for God is spirit, so those who worship him must worship in spirit and in truth.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. And then she talks about how it really testifies that God is God of everyone and no one misses out if they worship with their spirit. It doesn't matter where you are. Yeah, it seems like there's a theme. She was just talking about the differences about the Samaritan woman talking about where to worship God, and Jesus kind of brings it home by saying, you're missing the point, not about where you are physically, but where you are spiritually.
Exactly. It's like not what you do, but how you believe and where your heart's at, which is a whole new concept to these people, because they're all about following the law, the letter of the law. Do this, do that.
You definitely took pride on the fact that they dressed the ways they were supposed to, talk the way they were supposed to, live where they were supposed to. But Jesus comes and flips it all upside down.
Exactly. Really testifies that God is a God of everyone and not one misses out if they worship with their spirit. It doesn't matter where you are. I like that comment, Maddie. Oh, there we go. Same. Everything he says goes beyond physicality. Very good point. He's about to drop some truth on these guys. He's going to enlighten them. You know what I mean? I think the fact that she has had 5 husbands and now living with a man is another reason that she may think she would be less. So she is like, why are you talking about? Exactly. So that could be a point of her own identity, kind of her having problems with her own identity, and I guess trying to find fulfillment in ways that are just never really quenching her thirst. She must not have valued herself. I would probably feel the same way if my love life was that unstable. It's a good point. These comments are really hitting it home, I think.
Yeah, definitely. She didn't think herself as worthy for someone to come up to her and just strike conversation. And probably after he says, I'm the Messiah, she probably was thinking, all the more so you shouldn't be talking to me.
Exactly. But it's interesting because the second he starts getting personal and saying, let me try to find it. You're right that you said you don't have a husband, for you've had 5 husbands and the one you are with now isn't your husband. Mm-hmm. That's when she immediately changes the subject to something more religious, like a religious controversy. So right when he gets personal, it's like she takes a step back and says, all right, let's change the subject here. What do you think about this controversy right here? This controversy between Jews and Samaritans? Because you guys think this, I think that. It's like she's trying to bring up the law or cultural controversies. And he kind of supersedes that. He completely goes above it. He doesn't really even specifically answer that question. He says it's not even about that. It's about that doesn't matter at all. You can't worship spiritually by doing X, Y, and Z and A, B, and C. You have to be worshiping in spirit and in truth. So one thing I wanted to look at was the repeated words and just different unique concepts we come across in each chapter. And this one, I think it might be the first time that the concept of living water was brought up. So I wanted to ask the question, what do you guys think living water is? What does that mean to you? Living water.
Yeah, and I like that Jesus uses, whatever is around him to drive home his point.
Right.
They're clearly, that's going to be the quickest way to start a conversation with someone. He's really meeting her where she's at. You're getting water. All right, let's start talking about water. Just give me some water, and we'll go from there. But yeah, I think water is such an important part of this whole conversation, and it really became a big way that like churches and I guess like Christianese, like the living water. I know there's like churches called living water.
Yeah.
All that.
Now it's like a hot topic conversation. It's a hot word. It's a
hot word. Yeah.
It's a term that Christians know.
Yeah. Everyone everyone talks about it, but really, what does it mean in this conversation? Is that living water you're drinking?
It's Dasani.
It's pretty close.
It's close. It's as close as we'll get to living water. No. But, it's an interesting thing, seeing someone who has a basic need, like meeting their basic need, like thirst, but using that as an opportunity to talk about spiritual needs, spiritual thirst.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I like that you took it a little bit, because why do we get water? Like, why is it so important that these people go out and get water? It was because you're thirsty. You needed to survive. So it's almost like when he says living water, it's like, well, yeah, of course, water is for living. That's kind of redundant to say, but he really is trying to get something across. Where Kakao anime here says living water is the Holy Spirit and faith.
I like it.
I would agree with that.
I like that. The Holy Spirit and faith.
It kind of reminds me about the Bible is the living word, so living water is like salvation. Nikki says.
I like that. It's like the Bible is the daily bread, and worshiping in the Spirit with the Holy Spirit, that's like the living water. It's like water and bread.
Yeah. I mean, there's the verse, man will not
live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. I love that verse. Sorry. It's like John 6:35 is one of my favorite verses. It's and he said unto them, if any man will come to me, let him deny himself. So, it kind of goes into what's about to happen with the next verse here, the next chunk of what happens right after this encounter, with Jesus literally saying, I'm the Messiah, right after she brought it up, to what happens after that. I think this is like a really great segue into the response of someone who's had a genuine encounter with God.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think he says it, in verse 13 very well. He says, Jesus said, everyone who drinks from the water will get thirsty again, but whoever drinks from the water that I will give will never get thirsty again ever. Which I think is, he's trying to drive home that, let's take this into the spiritual, and the answer is me. It's Jesus that's going to provide that. Because I think we use it like the term thirst is like when you're living life, you're trying to look for things for satisfaction, for happiness, for joy. So it's almost like, where are you trying to quench your thirst in life?
Ooh.
So that's a question for you guys. Where are you trying to satisfy your quench for thirst in life?
That's a good question. So what are some ways that we have tried to fulfill sort of the longing in our hearts?
Yeah.
Because I think that's a good question, because I feel like that's something everyone can relate with, that we've had some sort of longing in our hearts for something more, something we can't explain, something that's not so easy to put into words. Like, we could get on a roll, we could get the degree we want, the job we want, maybe the house we want, the significant other, the relationship we want. But at the end of the day, there's something there that you can't fulfill. There's a thirst you can't quench with just stuff.
And that's life. Everyone's always, I feel like everyone has a mission, you know, even if it's just like a daily mission or even half a day. It's like, what are you doing today that you think is gonna, you know, when you go to bed tonight, that you're gonna be like, all right, today was a good day, you know, like well, even if it's rest, you think today I'm not gonna do anything. Well, that's your mission for today. You're just gonna rest. You're just not gonna do anything. But bigger than that, you're right. Like the house, the job, the relationship, the acceptance from family or from friends. But, you know, then Jesus says all these things, you know, just like physical water will leave you thirsty again, those things are going to leave you thirsty because people disappoint you, and jobs end. You get frustrated at jobs. I mean, I know I thought my job was going to be this amazing thing once I got out of school, and it's like some days I'm just kind of like, I just want to go back to school and stop working because it's not very much fun.
Well, I've been there. You know, minus the wanting to go back to school part.
Well, yeah, probably not go back to school. Let's say go back to the vacation while you're in school.
I've definitely, yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, it's an idealistic thing. Even going to school for engineering, that was such a thing where I was like, this is it. This is what I've thought I was going to do from the very beginning. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be great at it. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to get a house. I'm going to get married. And then it's just like the whole, I don't know, the whole story would kind of just play out the way I imagined it, and everything's going to be great and peachy. And I'm going to be happy. But that that I'm face down freshman year on my floor in my dorm room after failing a calc test, and I'm like, all right, so this isn't working at all. This is not how I imagined it. My whole life is crumbling around me because I've built my identity in this one path.
Yeah.
And it ain't quenching my thirst, Felipe.
I love that you just brought up that word identity, because I think that's what Jesus is trying to get at. Like, where are you finding your identity? Where are you trying to quench your life thirst? And if it's not from the living water, you're going to end up thirsty again and just going back to the same well over and over and over, kind of, you know, repeating the same things, but still ending up thirsty at the end of the day. And, you know, I guess like the answer is it's Jesus, and that if you're not finding your identity through Jesus, you're gonna be dissatisfied. You're gonna be back to exactly where you were before you got this glass of water, whatever that water is.
Right. I like it.
I speak this way sometimes.
That's probably what, you know, I think people have already touched on this in the comments, saying that what this woman might have been trying to fulfill her identity in is in relationships and pursuing a relationship. And if that's what you're looking for in fulfilling your identity, it's going to fall short, it's going to disappoint you, and that's why it hasn't really worked out for her. But we're probably missing some good comments here. Sorry, guys.
Stop talking so much. Jeez.
I'm sorry. Reeling it back. I heard a pastor say that we can only focus on the present because that is the only place, that is the only place we can touch God, because we are not in the past and the future is yet to come.
That's awesome. And I mean, one of the reasons I love this story is because God, you're right, like it's in the present that God comes in and touches this person's life. Like, he wasn't going to church, she wasn't going and trying to get an answer from him. Like, she was just doing her thing, filling up her water basin bucket thing. I don't know why I said basin.
It's a nice Old Testament word.
It sounded cool. And then all of a sudden Jesus shows up and just flips her life upside down, you know, telling her, I'm the Messiah, which I think is the first time this book, at least, where Jesus has said, I am the Messiah.
I think it's the first time. You know, he's hinted to it plenty of times, but he's not concerned with like just going up and convincing someone, hey, I'm the Messiah, believe me. He likes to show it through his actions, and he wants them to come to that conclusion.
Yeah, yeah. I think Eleanor said, God uses different ways to humble us. when we think we have our lives together apart from him, we find true happiness in him and in living for him. Yeah, and I think that's very true. We sometimes it seems like life is going exactly the way we want it to. You know, you got your job, you got your house and stuff, and then at the end of the day, you get up thirsty again, and you're wondering what's going on, because it really needs to be living in him and through him.
I know I'm probably not the only one, which is why I feel comfortable saying this, but I've tried so many times to fulfill my internal longing and desires with stuff, with things, like with new filming equipment, new gaming setup, new nice apartment, nice whatever's around me. I do it all the time subconsciously. Like, I'll just look at advertisements and be like, all right, let me fill up my shopping cart on the American Eagle real quick. And like, it comes up to $400 and I'm thinking, oh man, I just wish I could afford that. So, and I'm thinking, if I get all this stuff, I'm going to have a nice new wardrobe that's going to make me happy. Well, it might for about a day or a week.
Yeah.
But after that, none of it's lasting. None of it's lasting. And it keeps happening. It's like, I forget. I have like a built-in forgetter. And if I'm not careful, if I'm not getting my daily bread in the Bible, and if I'm not getting my daily living water, I immediately start reverting back to just thinking, oh, these physical things are going to satisfy me, which they never do. It's like this lie I keep buying.
Well, yeah, and like, I mean, for me, I was in the very same time, I went to school for a long time. So
yeah, you did.
When I got out of it, I thought, all right, it's time to collect like everything that I've been waiting for, get a new house, go get a job, go do all these things. And I wasn't intentionally thinking it was going to make me happy, but it just seemed like I was waiting so long to get all that started that it seemed like I should have been happy right afterward. And it was funny. The first major thing we had to do when we bought the house then was to replace the roof, which was a headache and a half.
Oh,
and,
man.
By the end of it, I was just I remember talking to Joy and being like, hey, do you remember when we used to have Saturdays to just sit down and relax and watch TV and movies? Because like now it just seems like there's just so much. But just going right back to what you were saying, you try to kind of fulfill yourself and find your identity in these things, and they leave you wanting.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
they do, and I think everyone can relate. Even on YouTube, like that's one of the coolest things I've ever come across. Like getting subscribers and views, and like different companies shout you out, and going to KCON and modding panels. But I can't tell you how unfulfilling that stuff is at the end of the day. It leaves you empty, especially if you base your identity in that.
Yeah.
Starting GEN180 is the best thing I've ever done on YouTube. And when I start imagining what would my life be like if I deleted my normal my Josh Binder channel, the K-pop reaction channel. And to be honest, doesn't really worry me a whole lot. It almost is like less stressful life. It's fun and I do enjoy it, but it comes with so much stuff that people don't realize. But then I imagine what would it be like if I deleted GEN180 and never wanted to share my faith again with anyone. And I can't imagine a life with that. Like immediately I'd feel like, well, what's the point of me being here? Like it's just, what would be fulfilling about a life just seeking my own gain?
Yeah.
Because I've been there and that doesn't work. So it's like, now that I know that, I can't even imagine a life where that's all I'm doing. But we're missing a lot of comments here. So
yeah, M. Lurch says, living water. I was thinking about his choice of words. Instead of just water, he is living water. Water that is fresh and changing, new and clean. He makes us clean. He helps change and make us new. And water is life-sustaining, so without him, our spiritual life cannot be sustained. Yeah, and I think I love the way that he says, what is it? The water I give you will cause a well to well up inside of you. I paraphrase terribly on that one, but bubbling water, it's somewhere here. But yeah, that this water basically is not just going to satisfy you right now. It's going to satisfy you permanently and not leave you thirsty again. And I think that's very true. It's making us clean and changing us from within. I like that, M. Lurch.
I love it.
You want to hit Kakao animes?
Yeah. Dang, I'll pop up for a second.
You're falling apart over there.
Sorry. It's the first time he says this in the book, but he only says this to this girl. That's interesting.
Oh, I think he was talking about that. He was the Messiah.
It's the first time he says he's the Messiah, and he's saying it to a Samaritan woman. What culturally people would be like, why are you even talking to her?
Yeah.
And it doesn't even it doesn't matter to Jesus. It's another human, and that's who he's decided to talk to.
And it goes back to, you know, God meeting us where we are just in our daily lives. And I think that the great thing about the way Jesus does his ministry is everyone expected him to come in and, you know, stand on top of the temple and do a bunch of miracles, convince the Pharisees, convince the Romans that he's God, and do his thing where he just shows up and says, hey, tax collectors, hey, fishermen, hey, random Samaritan woman that no one really even thinks about. I'm God.
Yeah, exactly.
He uses the lowliest and the least of us, which is awesome. When you have those humbling experiences where you realize, like, maybe I'm not so cool as I thought I was, it's great to remember that God's in the process of using you.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. Eleanor, I use K-pop to forget about a lot of things and to make my little friends better and more fun. But more often than not, I feel like it's all pointless, and I'm so lucky to have my church to guide me. That's a really good point. I love music. You know, Felipe, you love music. I feel like I've heard you playing a little guitar during this live stream. I've been noticed. But
at the beginning, I was hoping no one would notice, but yes.
He's playing guitar underneath. You couldn't see him doing it. But we both love music. Music is a really important part of life. I think God loves music. He uses music in many ways. But, you know, what kind of music? I feel like a lot of it can be fun entertainment, but it's never been meant to fulfill us or give us our identity or to quench that thirst that's been put in all of our hearts. So I think that's what this is kind of getting at, what Eleanor's kind of trying to get at, is that it's not quenching that spiritual thirst. It never will. You'll never be 100% fulfilled, you know, through a new comeback. You know what I mean? It sounds silly, but a lot of people, including me, will think that sometimes.
Yeah. You think this is going to make your week, this is going to make the day. I've even noticed, like, days where I don't read the Bible either because I ran out of time or I'm just being a little heathen and just don't make time to do it.
Heathen!
No, you do feel less satisfied. Like, things annoy you easier. Road rage comes easier. It's so much easier to just get annoyed with people. It really is and I wish that it was just a one-time thing. Like, you could just drink one cup of water and just be done.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great?
But it's, I think God had a different thing in mind.
Yeah, he did.
Sorry, I don't know where I got on this point, but yeah. No, about the church, where, you know, like, even weeks where I go to church and I start off the week with, like, a good sermon and have something going on in my mind, and, you know, I'm thinking about these things every day. It leaves me in a better place. It
does. It kind of, like, frames everything.
Yeah.
And sets your priorities where they're supposed to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, K-pop. Oh, sorry. I'm struggling, man. These comments jump around so much. I'm making people dizzy. Yeah, K-pop makes me happy, but when I'm at my lowest place, I can turn to God. Exactly.
I'd heard that was actually why Judas betrayed him, because he wanted to force Jesus to do something great, and why he hung himself after the crucifixion. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's, like, when he's trying to make Jesus into something that Jesus didn't want to do, you know, and Jesus was very much into the spiritual kingdom rather than the physical kingdom. So I imagine that's why a lot of people had problems with him, because, you know, in the end, if you say I'm the Messiah, you put up a lot of expectations for people around you.
Yeah, you do. Life, not little friends.
Children for me just feels strange. Church, not
a week without.
I was like, someone get him a babysitter.
Yeah. Well, I think this actually makes more sense. The typo meant life and not little friends. That makes a lot more sense. Okay.
Oh, okay.
All these typos. No, that makes sense. Well,
what
cool.
do you say if we, do you think that we can finish off that story? Because I just realized that it kind of goes on a little bit.
Yeah.
After that.
Let's go ahead and read the next chunk. We ended at verse 26 when he said, I am the Messiah. And we'll just read to the end of that and see what the result of this encounter with Jesus was. So how many verses? 27 till let's stop 42.
Okay.
All right, so let's continue on here. Okay. And again, I'll ask the same question right after this next chunk to you guys of what stuck out, if you had any questions, anything that you wanted to talk about. So let's go on here in verse 26, I am the Messiah. Verse 27. Just then his disciples came back. They were shocked to find him talking to a woman, but none of them have the nerve to ask, what do you want with her, or why are you talking to her? The woman left her water jar beside the well and ran back to the village, telling everyone, come and see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could he possibly be the Messiah? So the people came streaming from the village to see him. Not like we're streaming. That's what I think of immediately. Like they're like, he's holding up like an iPad. That's
Everyone
him!
was out there, their iPhones just looking around.
Well, if it happened today, you know that would happen, right?
Yeah, that's true. Streaming would be a different thing.
Hold it down, hold it down. Yeah, there he is. All right. So they came.
I'm at 4G LTE.
4G LTE outside Jerusalem. All right, so could this possibly be the Messiah? They came streaming from the village. Meanwhile, the disciples were urging Jesus, Rabbi, eat something. But Jesus replied, I have a kind of food you know nothing about. I feel like they're always a little confused by Jesus.
You ever feel like Jesus might be trolling them? Or like,
I know! He's like, guys, I got food you know nothing about. So then they replied, did someone bring him food while we were gone? The disciples asked each other. Then Jesus explained, my nourishment comes from doing the will of God who sent me, and from finishing his work. You know the saying, 4 months between planting and harvest, but I say, wake up and look around, for the wheat fields are already white for harvest. The harvesters are paid good wages, and the fruit they harvest is people brought to eternal life. What joy awaits both the planter and the harvester alike? You know the saying, one plants and another harvests, and it's true. I sent you to harvest where you didn't plant. Others had already done the work, and now you will get to gather the harvest. Many Samaritans from the village believed in Jesus because of what the woman had said. He told me everything I ever did. When they came out to see him, they begged him to stay in their villages, so he stayed for 2 days, long enough for many more to hear the message and believe. Then they said to the woman, now we believe, not just because of what you told us, but because we have heard him ourselves, and now we know that he indeed is the Savior of the world.
Nice.
I love that ending. And I love that segue out. It's like, we got interested because of what you told us, but now we believe personally because we saw him ourselves. We heard him ourselves. We experienced him on our own. So anything jump out to you guys? Anything interesting? Anything pop out? Any questions?
I'll be honest, for me, during verse 34, I was just lost. And then I was happy to get back to 39 when it was like, okay, back to the Samaritans. People came back. It was like, okay, harvesting something about 2 weeks and 4 weeks. Okay, is that how long it takes to harvest?
I ain't no farmer.
I just go to the grocery store.
That's true.
No, but I definitely like that she ran back. It was interesting that she was interested, but then she said, could he possibly be the Messiah? So I don't think she was convinced.
Right.
You know? But it does say she just like dropped her jar of water and then just like ran away from there telling everyone. So I think she was, if not fully there, she was like 90% of the way there.
That's a good point. Like, she went to the well for the water to quench her physical thirst. And then as soon as she encountered Jesus, she left her water jar and ran back to the village. It's like she no longer cared about her physical thirst. She now has had an encounter with Christ. It's changed her, and she has another thirst to quench. I don't know. How would you put that? It's just her priorities have changed.
Well, and Elf Lover does say, like, well, would we believe a random man at the well if he just told us? That's true. Like, I guess it's easy to look back, and now that we know that, like, this is actually God, to be like, well, why don't you just, like, fall down on your knees and, you know, beg for mercy? But that's true. She probably just was interested. So that, okay. Point conceded. I guess.
Okay.
I get it.
Q&A. So even though he told her who he was, she still didn't know for sure and ran to people to see what they think. I think that makes sense. Just like Nicodemus, he believed to a point, and he came to Jesus's place and he was said, we believe that you're a prophet who came from God. But he didn't say, we believe that you're the Messiah, the Son of God. You know, it's people are really starting to, he's starting to hit their radar, and they're really interested in them.
Yeah. Coffee and Muffin says, interesting that she went from seemingly avoiding everyone to being so moved that she ran to tell everyone. And that's a really, really good point. Something I hadn't thought about. Yeah, because she's sitting there at noon trying to avoid seeing anyone, and then now she's just showing up in people's, radar again, saying...
It's like she doesn't care about that. She doesn't care about being embarrassed. She doesn't care about her shame or any part of her life, or people might think, oh, there's the person who's been married 5 times and now living with some random dude. She doesn't care. She's like, come see this person who told me everything I ever did. Could it be the Messiah?
Yeah. I do like that. And then I like how we end with the, we ended the first kind of place that we stopped with Jesus saying, I am the Messiah. And then we finished this one out with everyone saying, we believe he is the Messiah.
Now we know that he is indeed the Savior of the world. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So
yeah, you thirsty? There's only one non-thirst coming back water, and that's the living water, and that's Savior of the world, and that's... I'm waiting for you to finish my sentence, but now you're drinking, so I'm quite concerned. I'm going to have to
I thought that was like a purely monologue type joke, and I was going to be the visual aid. But you're right. That was a dialogue. I felt the hints, and I ignored them. I'm sorry. No, I'll do it next time.
Give me 1 second. I'm hearing people scream outside.
No, take your time. The problems of a homeowner.
It's just the mail being delivered.
Who was screaming, mail? For me, I was just reminded how I need to work harder to spread the gospel, because God is telling us that there are people who are ready for it. I love that. Yeah. I love that, Matt. That's what I got from this passage here. He was talking a lot of farming analogies, mainly because those are topics that really resonate with people at the time. Back in the day, they don't have all these high-tech technologies. They're not an advanced culture. Right now, most people's jobs revolve around some type of technology at this point, in one way or another. There's just technology heavy. But if you look at developing countries or third world countries, like when I was in the Philippines a couple months ago, everyone's job, I'm talking 99% of people in the Philippines, their jobs revolve around food in one way or another, with planting and harvesting to processing to packaging and shipping. It all revolves around the food industry, because they're not nearly as developed as a country. And then you eventually get to the point that food is just something you go to the grocery store and get, and the rest of your life revolves around technology. But right now, there are farmers, there are fishermen, there are people whose lives revolve around these concepts. And so I feel like that's why he's using these terms to communicate effectively to these people, like his disciples. But I want to read that one part again.
The verse 34.
34, thank you.
Yeah.
Then Jesus explained, my nourishment comes from doing the will of God who sent me, and from finishing his work. You know the saying, 4 months between planting and harvest. Well, we didn't know that saying, but apparently that's something they all know. But I say, wake up and look around. The fields are ready and ripe for harvest. And there's a lot of translations on what this sounds like. I like the one saying the fields are white for harvest, because when grain grows to a certain point, it's just a white field when you're seeing the heads of all the grain. I like the visual translation. The fields are white for harvest. But that's the way it is with everyone around us, because we all know people right now that are spiritually thirsty. So that's really interesting. One plants and another harvests. I think what that's saying is saying that not just one person brings someone to Christ. I think it's a series of people planting seeds in their life. They say statistically on average there's 7 people that share their faith with an individual before they come to Christ. 7 on average. So you could be that first person to plant that seed in their life and say, this is what I believe. This is how God's changed my life. This is what he's done for me. And they could completely brush it off on the surface and be like, nah, it's not for me, or I don't like organized religion. But that might have planted a seed, and that might have been something to think about later. And then the seventh person that comes along might share their faith, and the person's ready to hear at that point. And they want to know more, and they ask questions.
Yeah, and you never know. I mean, I used to. I've gone out with a missionary in our town that goes out to like the Baltimore Harbor and stuff and shares the gospel. And you have a lot of interesting conversations. And you're right. Some people are like, weird. I just had this conversation, with someone this morning or yesterday, and some people, they don't seem truly interested. They're just trying to have that conversation. But you could be that first person in the chain that, tomorrow when someone mentions God again, then they're going to be like, oh my gosh, like someone just talked to me about this. It's crazy. Because, I mean, you're not going to. I remember whenever we were doing that, and we're missing this entirely funny conversation in the comments that I just want to bring up, because M. Lurch says, like and share the gospel. That shows up today, which is amazing. Yep. Subscribe to the gospel.
I love it. I love it.
No, but, I would say, like, sometimes you get discouraged because you go in to share your faith, and the people, like, they don't respond the way that you want them to. You're thinking, like, all right, I'm going to start this conversation. By the end of it, we're going to be praying Jesus into their lives, and I'm going to be the next missionary. And it doesn't go that way. But you got to remember that, one person plants and the other person harvests, and you could be doing part of that work, and at the end of the day, it's Jesus that needs to do the growing.
Oh, yeah.
In their heart.
100%. We can't make anything grow in their life.
Yeah. So, I mean, all that to say, like, yeah, I love that. It's encouraging me, too, to go out and share the gospel. Just don't get discouraged if it doesn't go the way you thought, in the first conversation you have or a couple conversations you have.
I love it. Like and share the gospel showing up in today's translation. On a completely different tone, I would say that there's nothing that the devil would love more than for us to keep our religion to ourselves, our faith, our beliefs to ourselves, hold up, never share. It's the safe thing to do. It's the easy thing to do. It's the comfortable thing to do. But that's what he would love for us to do, is to keep it personal and never, ever share it with anyone. It's like having the answer, the solution, and never willing to share it with our friends. Keeping it to yourself, that's what he would love.
Yeah.
The amount of resistance I got just starting this channel, all these crazy things that started popping up in my life, and there's been discouraging events. There's been people who have discouraged me in one way or another. And I was like, I gotta power through it. Do a falcon punch through it. I didn't falcon punch anyone, but the point is, I felt a lot of resistance with starting this channel. Some of it came from my own life. Some of it came from external things. But I felt that there was a resistance to starting this. It's not an easy thing to do, but it was the most rewarding thing I've ever done.
Yeah, I mean, there's a spiritual battle out there, and you gotta be ready to fight the good fight, and you are gonna get some resistance. But like you said, you just gotta falcon punch right through it.
Like and share the gospel. I like that. I want that to be my outro tagline now. Like and share the gospel.
Like and share, subscribe down below. And it's
comment.
Like the gospel.
I love it.
All right. Well, I think that's a good point to stop for the week, right?
Yeah. I just want to like scroll through these comments real quick.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We missed. Sorry, mine got stuck in the like and share the gospel.
7 is a magic number in the Bible. Yeah, it is. It's the Lord's number. 7. Isn't that interesting? That's 7 people on average, and it's the Lord's number. It's almost like there's something there. Something there, Felipe.
Divine intervention.
Divine intervention. All right, so Q Anime, I think it's funny how certain numbers show up a lot, like 7, 12, 40. I wonder if God has favorite numbers. I think he does. I think that the God of the universe made math. He made the universe. He made the golden ratio. He made all these things. And we'll notice that like pi, 3.14159265 that appears so many places in nature. I feel like it's a signature. It's like a thumbprint of God. It's these signatures, and we see them pop up. Atheists who study math, like some of my calculus and differential equation professors, they'll go on and on about ranting about how amazing and beautiful nature is with these patterns that come out. And what I'm hearing is they're speaking intelligent design. Like there was an intelligence behind this design, but they're just wondering how it happened by accident. I just think it was interesting.
Right.
But yeah.
Filling in Kyra.
You know what? If I were to bring this to the front real quick, transform, order, move to the top. There we go. And now I bring it right over Felipe's face here.
Just block me out completely.
Then I'm able to read a lot more at once. Perfect. Let's just finish this off here. Finding a certain number shown in the Bible. Sorry, could someone fill me in? Sorry, Kira. We're about to end the stream, so I'm sorry that you missed that.
But you posted live. You posted afterward, right?
Yeah, it's posted live immediately after. And if they're watching it now, they can always rewind right now.
Oh, okay, cool.
Right now we're talking about John 4:27-24. Thank you for the recap. Yeah, I heard that too. You never know the impact you make on people in the world, so why not share? Because you can only do good even if you never see it. That's a good point, Maddie. We read the story of Jesus, the Samaritan woman in the well. Show me your moves. You are trying to carry the living water through a spiritual desert, trying to share it with those dying of thirst, but don't know it. Of course, going yard. That's a really good point. It's difficult. I feel like this is one of those stories that it's one of my favorite stories in the entire New Testament because of how relatable it is to our own lives and how it's convicting to share your faith with someone else.
And it's so rich. Like there's so many layers to it. There's, not only Jesus reaching out to someone that he shouldn't be reaching out to really, but also dropping that truth bomb about living water. I am the Messiah.
That's
the disciples are lost like usual.
Yeah, for real. But I love this. I love the way it ends. With the people of the city eventually coming to a belief.
Yeah, and then you think he's going to be showing up in Jerusalem, claiming Jerusalem is his because he's the savior. And he's like one of the biggest parts of his ministry starts in
Samaria.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love that. His people are not the people thought his people would be.
People.
That's a lot of people. But yeah, as a leader in my church said, the work of salvation was never easy. It wasn't easy for Christ, won't be easy for us. Good point. Good point. So Josh, did you catch up on the KakaoTalk chat? I did not. I need to catch up on that. I've been 50 Shades of busy, but I'll catch up on that immediately after the stream. Felipe, I need to introduce you and invite you to the KakaoTalk group chat. And for anyone watching this that's new, or maybe you're watching for the first time or you're not part of the KakaoTalk group chat, it's basically a group chat of us right here. And everyone, just anyone that wants to be connected throughout the week. It's also an opportunity that we can share things about our lives with each other, like things that we're struggling with, things that we'd like encouragement on or prayer for. It's really awesome. It's been more active than ever before. People are just, connecting and having a really good time sharing about their life and encouraging each other. So if you guys want to join that, in the description, I put a link on how to download for Apple or Android the KakaoTalk app. And if you invite me, I put my username down there. I'll write it right here. Super unique username. JoshBinderKakao. And that's my username. If you are to invite or just message me, I'll add you to the group chat. If there's a better way to add people to group chat, let me know. But that's like the best way I know how to. But yeah, so definitely join that if you'd like to. And yeah, I think this is a good place to stop. How long have we been streaming, Felipe? An hour?
An hour, yeah.
Yeah, about an hour and 10, hour and 9 minutes is a good place. I like keeping it around an hour, so it's not too long for, for us or for anyone else that's joining in, but it's not short as to the point where we can't really dig deep into things. I like an hour. I think it's a good...
Yeah, I really like how we dug into this one. I like the structure we're doing and asking and reading those chats. So thanks everyone for commenting. It was awesome.
Thank you guys. You guys make this so much deeper with all the different perspectives and unique points of views you guys bring into this. Because you mentioned things that I hadn't even thought of, and that happens every chat. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, we're probably going to continue doing this on Saturdays at noon Eastern Standard Time. I don't know what time that is for y'all, but that's what time it is for us. And we'll probably continue doing that. And yeah, so we'll see you guys in the next live stream. Thanks again for joining. And thank you for Felipe for joining. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'll see you next Saturday.
See you guys next Saturday. Take it easy.
Wait, I got it.
There you go.
Much louder. Ready?
Whoa!
I just hit the desk.
You just hit the desk? That's cheating. Yeah. All right. Like and subscribe to the gospel. Peace out.
Subscribe to the gospel.
See you guys.